Welcome to Gyandoot 2.0 program, an initiative of the Department of College Education, Rajasthan. Friends, today we are going to talk about Francis Bacon's essay of studies. My name is Bharti Singh Arya and I'm assistant professor in the Department of English. Francis Bacon was born on 22nd January 1561 in London, England. He was a great English philosopher, an influential statesman, an eminent scientist, lawyer, jurist, and a remarkable author. In his late teens, he practiced law in Trinity College. At the age of 23, he became a member of the House of Commons, and during his career as counsel and statesman, Bacon often wrote for the court. In 1584, he wrote his first political memorandum, a letter of advice to Queen Elizabeth. Bacon was the contemporary of Shakespeare, and which was also the time of Renaissance. So he is rightly called the child of Renaissance. The year 1597 marked Bacon's first publication, a collection of 10 essays about politics. The collection was later expanded and republished in 1612 and 1625. The essay of studies was a part of the collection that was published, the first collection in 1597, and later on it was added on of in the year 1612 and also in the year 1625, where he added some more sentences into the essay. His career flourished under King James I, but later scandals ended his life as a politician, since he was charged of corruption and bribes when he was a judge. He was also a philosopher and eminent scientist by nature. He died on April 9, 1626 at the age of 65 because of bronchitis. It is believed that he was working on the process of refrigeration. The essay of studies was first published in 1597 and it is a formal essay in nature. The purpose of this essay is to inform or persuade. It is called formal because it builds up a formal and serious tone and it caters to the mind. It is an intellectual discussion with its readers. Bacon is an objective writer and he writes impersonal essays. The essay of studies is didactic in style because it aims to teach and it lays out the value of knowledge in practical terms. The essay is full of wisdom. It is replete with aphorisms, and we can have a glimpse of the aphoristic style of Francis Bacon, for which he is very famous, and which is the hallmark of his essay writing. The theme of the essay of studies is that intelligent application of studies rather than merely the concept of studying. He emphasizes on the importance of knowing how to use what one has learned. One should not study for the namesake, but one should study to actually gain knowledge and to be wise and to be able to apply it in his daily life. So here the essay begins. He begins the essay by listing the three essential reasons that studies serve. Studies serve for delight, for ornament, and for ability. Bacon says that studies delight us, they make us happy, they also work as ornament and they enhances our ability. Well, studies remove our boredom and it entertains us, it gives us joy. When we read a good book, we are overjoyed and we feel happy and delighted. At the same time, a person who reads, who is well versed in any subject, it is only an added ornament to his personality. It also enhances the ability as he is able to converse very well with people. The chief use for delight is in privateness and retiring. It is believed that the best use of studies or of reading a good book is in privateness. It is you are able to enjoy and you get entertained when you are in private or you are secluded from the general public or people because you can imbibe what is there in the good book. For ornament is in discourse. When we are in discussion or in argument with someone, we can exhibit our knowledge of whatever we have studied, and for ability is in the judgment and disposition of business. An able person or a well read person is able to make a judgment in the kind of business that he's dealing with. He is able to understand the very inner details of the kind of business he's in since he's well read. For expert men can execute and perhaps judge of particulars one by one, but the general counsels and the plots and marshalling of affairs come best from those that are learned. Bacon here distinguishes between expert men and the learned men. He says here the meaning of expert men is the men of experience. No doubt the men of experience can work and they can execute the things in a better manner, in a much better way, and they can understand the pros and cons of any particular problem that comes before them. But the general counsels and the plots and marshalling, here plots means the plans and the projects, and marshalling means the arranging or managing things. A person who is well read and who is learned, who is full of wisdom, know he can understand and he can plan and he can make projects in a much better way, more better than a person of experience. So he says that a person who reads good books, who's full of knowledge, and if he's able to execute his knowledge, is considered to be learned, and his knowledge along with experience can work wonders. To spend too much time in studies is sloth. To use them too much for ornament is affectation. To make judgment wholly by the rules is the humor of a scholar. Now, Bacon emphasizes on the fact that too much of anything is bad, since he says that a person who spends too much time in studies, in reading, he calls it sloth, he calls it laziness. A person spending too much time in reading ends into being a lazy person. In other way, we can understand that uh, since reading is an activity which one does while sitting or when he is at rest, so it also leads into a sedentary lifestyle. So definitely a sedentary lifestyle makes a person lazy. So too much of reading makes a person lazy. And if a person considering that reading as an ornament, if he uses it in his discourse, in his discussion with people, if he uses or if he shows off too much of his knowledge in front of people, it looks pretentious. To make judgment wholly by the rules is the humor of a scholar. And to make a judgment or to use your bookish language everywhere is not possible, it is not practical, since he believes that it is just a mockery of a scholar. Because Bacon says that bookish knowledge does not really can be applied everywhere. One has to work according to the situation. One has to make a judgment according to what is before, what situation comes before a person. They perfect nature and are perfected by experience. In the next line, he gives value to experience, for he says that natural abilities are like natural plants that need pruning by study. Bacon compares the natural abilities in a human being with natural plants. Just like plants look more beautiful when we prune them or when we keep trimming them, a plant needs to be trimmed from time to time, since if we have to make it healthy, if we have to uh, if the growth of the plant has to be healthy, it needs pruning, it needs trimming from time to time. So he says, similarly, he compares it with the natural abilities of human beings, that our natural abilities are also perfected by gaining knowledge, by reading books, and by studies. And studies themselves do before, excuse me, studies themselves do give forth directions too much at large, except they be bounded in by experience. Studies themselves will not tell the value of themselves. They will not come forth as to say and as to tell the reader that use me. No. Studies will only, you can make use of the studies with your experience by putting it into practical use. Crafty men condemn studies, simple men admire them, and wise men use them. For they teach not their own use, but that is wisdom without them, and above them won by observation. Once again, Bacon makes use of practical wisdom. He is the man of the world, and he thinks from his mind and not from the heart. So it is the practical advice that he gives to his readers, saying that crafty men condemn studies. Those who are cunning, those who are shrewd, they condemn studies. They do not require studies. They have no value for studies. Simple men admire them. And the people who are simple at heart, they admire, or the ones who are uneducated, they really admire the ones who are educated, who are more, who are full of knowledge, who are wise, and wise men use them. The people who are wise, they make the practical use of studies in the daily life, for they teach not their own use. Studies do not teach their own use. Studies can be best used when the outer knowledge or the practical wisdom is applied. So he gives importance to studies when it is mixed with wisdom. But that is wisdom without them and above them won by observation. Here he means he gives preference to your practical wisdom to over your bookish knowledge. Read not to contradict and confute, nor to believe and take for granted, nor to find talk and discourse, but to weigh and consider. Now Bacon says that read not to contradict and confute. Here he when one is in conversation with someone, one is in public and one needs to talk to someone, the reading and the way of talking should not be just to contradict someone. It means that one should not establish his supremacy just for the namesake or just to be or to show off superior than the one he's talking to. He should not to believe and take for granted. Studies should also not be taken for granted, since anything you should not accept anything that is served before you in a platter, and it he says that do not accept anything as the gospel truth, nor to find talk and discourse just for the sake of talking. You should not go on talking and go on exhibiting your knowledge, but to weigh and consider. The purpose of reading here is to weigh and consider. The real purpose of studies is served when one is able to critically examine a problem that comes before oneself. Some books are to be tasted, others to be swallowed, and some few to be chewed and digested. These are some very famous lines of Bacon's essay of studies. And they are aphoristic in style because these lines can be elaborated so much. Some books are to be tasted, others to be swallowed, and some few to be chewed and digested. That is, some books are to be read only in parts. When he says that they are to be tasted, it means that he is talking about the books which are of meaner sense. So he says that some books are to be read only in parts, which are not which may not serve any purpose in life, but just you need to read in parts. If you do not read the whole, it does not really matter because the content of the book is not really purposeful. Others to be swallowed. There are certain books which one needs to read, which one is not interested in, yet one has to read, so it is simply swallowing. Just like a medicine, when you swallow it, it is important. A medicine is required for your body, so you swallow it without having the taste of it. So he says that he here focuses on the kind of books one should read. Excuse me. Others to be read but not curiously. There are certain books that needs to be read but not so curiously. You can read it just you can simply read it cursorily, and some few to be read wholly and with diligence and attention. But there are certain important books that needs a lot of attention, and you need to work hard on those books in order to imbibe the real essence of what the book needs to convey. Some books also may be read by deputy and extracts made of them by others. But that would be only in the less important arguments and the meaner sort of books. Else, distilled books are like common distilled waters, flashy things. Once again, he is discriminating between the kind of books that needs to be read. In fact, it's a practical advice that Bacon gives to his readers. He says there are certain books which you can employ somebody, you can depute somebody to read it for you, and there are certain extracts which they can make to you, and he talks of those books that are less important and which does not serve much purpose in increasing your wisdom. So he also compares these books to distilled water, which are flashy things. Just like distilled water is insipid, it is tasteless. Similarly, these books are also tasteless. He does not attach much value to these books, so he calls them as distilled water, and he compares it to that water, and he calls it flashy things. Reading maketh a full man, conference a ready man, and writing an exact man. He employs, again, Bacon employs aphoristic style by saying that reading maketh a full man. By reading, a person becomes a complete man, and he is complete in his personality. And therefore, if a man write little, he had need have a great memory. If he confer little, he had need have a present wit. And if he read little, he had need have much cunning to seem to know that he doth not. According to Bacon, if one is in the habit of reading, it will make him a full man. It will make him a complete man. If he's ready to confer with people, ready to talk, ready to discuss, he is all the more, it is an added quality. Since while talking, while discussing, if a person is well read, he can give better arguments. And writing an exact man. But when one starts writing something, he comes across various things and he becomes a perfect man, since writing is an exercise that is innovative, and man is made for innovation. And therefore, if a man write little, he had need have a great memory. If a person is not in the habit of writing, he should have a great memory. And if he is shy or bashful, if he talks less, he need have a present wit. He should have a present wit. And if he read little, he had need have much cunning. And if he has not read much, if he is not well versed with the ideas and with the latest happenings, then he should be cunning enough, smart enough to behave or to pretend that he knows much more. Histories make men wise, poets witty, the mathematics subtle, natural philosophy deep, moral grave, logic and rhetoric able to contend. Bacon stresses on the effect of different subjects on human behavior. Let us first go through the meanings. Witty means imaginative, and he says that a person should read different kind of books, different kind of subjects as per his temperament. Just like histories make men wise, a person becomes wiser if he reads a lot of history books. And poets witty. Witty here means imaginative. A poet is an imaginative person, and the mathematics, the purpose which the subject mathematics serve, is subtle. Natural philosophy will make him deep. It means that the natural sciences, if a person reads and it is he is good in natural sciences, reading chemistry, physics, biology subjects, so it will give him an inner knowledge. It will the depth of his knowledge would increase, and the moral science will make him grave and serious. Logic and rhetoric. Rhetoric is the art of oratory, and logic means the science of reasoning. If he reads logic and rhetoric, he will be able to contend, he will be able to argue much better, since he will have more uh, arguments over the others. Abuent studia in modes. Here we see the use of Latin vocabulary, which was another hallmark of Bacon's in his essays, because we get to see his Latin, his knowledge of Latin in almost all his essays. This means that studies pass into and influence manners. Whatever you study, it will form your character. Whatever kind of books you read, it forms into the character, and the kind of books, the taste that one possesses in reading books, it will influence his mannerisms. Nay, there is no stone or impediment in the wit, but may be wrought out by fit studies, like as diseases of the body may have appropriate exercises. Stoned means obstacle, and wit here means the mind. Wrought out means removed. Nay, there is no stone or impediment in the wit, but may be wrought out by fit studies. Finally, it is Bacon, he ends the essay by saying that just like if there is any problem, any diseases in the body, it is removed by appropriate exercises. Similarly, if your mind is suffering from any kind of disease, the diseases can be removed by appropriate studies of the subjects. If he be not apt to beat over matters, and to call up one thing to prove and illustrate another, let him study the lawyer's cases. So every defect of the mind may have a special receipt. If a person is unable to garner facts and manipulate them to put across his views convincingly, studying law will help him. Just like he has given us the idea about different subjects, how different what purpose different subjects serve for different problems. So he says that if a person is not able to garner facts and manipulate them, he should be studying law, the subject law. Thus, every deficiency of mind can be addressed by appropriate reading. It is the practical advice and the practical wisdom of Bacon that he shares with his readers. That's all for today's lesson of studies. Thank you.